guys, Asher coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. I am not alone. I'm joined by Shini. Shini, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, what's up, guys?
I am thrilled to have you back. I told you this off air too, but like, this is a very selfish video, very selfish collab for yours truly, because I get to ask you all the cutting edge information about endgame arena.
Wait, what? What are we doing here?
Endgame builds, what is going on in kind of the PvP zeitgeist of Raid Shadow Legends right now. And for those of you who aren't aware, Shini uploads every single day, arena content, basically exclusively still, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, last couple of weeks I was a little bit lazy. There was some things going on and it wasn't exactly daily uploads, but yeah, mostly PvP focused videos, and I guess I'm doing a little bit like update videos from PvP perspective, and then just some maybe social commentary about things going on in the game and so on. But
well,
yeah,
I love it, man. I love your perspective, and I learned so much from your channel. You're probably my most watched YouTube channel out of any raid.
I could not ask for more.
Because I love PvP. I don't make a ton of PvP content, but I learn a lot, and I enjoy that part of the game personally. So I'm sure a lot of my audience feels the same way. Listen, even though we're both endgame, I want this video to apply to everybody, even if you don't have all these champions. Just trying to give you guys some inspiration out there on how to build different ways to build your champions, how to kind of combat some of the, you know, the popular meta in the game right now. We're going to go through some of the most popular champions being used right now and talk about kind of the evolution of how they're being built, how they're being utilized, how to form a team in the current meta, yada, yada, yada. Before we talk about any of that, Shini, I did notice that I didn't watch your most recent videos, but I did notice that you said you're going for #1 in live arena. Is that a real thing? Are you really trying to do that?
well, actually, I was talking about classic arena because that's always been like a goal of mine, and I've been like rank 2 twice and rank 3 twice, but at one point I was like 10 points. This is like pretty much like a year ago. I think last day of January, a year ago, I was like 10 points away from rank 1. I was rank 2. So that's always been my goal in Raid. In the current meta, it doesn't really seem possible to do, but it's always something that I hope to do.
Okay.
And by the way, I can definitely tell that you do like live arena, because you're very high ranked.
I wouldn't say very high, but I'm there. You know.
I mean,
Just take the compliment.
Yeah.
It's kind of high. I mean, you have spent a lot of time playing live arena.
Yeah, I've done 1,700 almost 1,700 battles. Sorry, you guys can see my mediocre stats over here. I'll move Shini over.
Yeah, definitely more than most. That's a very large amount of time to do it. Yeah. Yeah,
I really do enjoy it. I had Big Papa Drock on a couple times recently here on the channel, and I was shocked at how high he was. And he had like an 80% win rate, dude. And I was like, how is that possible, bro? How is that possible, you know?
I don't know if he's rank 1 right now, because I don't think he played as much lately.
No, he's like 20th last time I looked, but I can't find him.
Just a little bit ago, I mean, he used to be rank 1 for a long time, and he had definitely the highest win ratio out of the like high ranked players. I think there was maybe like a couple players in top 100 with maybe 1% higher win
for
ratio.
Drock, if you want a big win percentage, other than just taking breaks, I feel like the easiest way to get a high win percentage is to take long breaks, come back, progress through people who are not as advanced as you, and then you jack up your win percentage and then take a break again once you hit that wall. But other than that, you know, is it mainly a gear game? You know, like speed?
I don't think he's like try-harding it that way, that he's intentionally doing it.
No, I'm not saying that about Drock. I'm just saying in general.
If he was good for him, by the way, because that kind of sounds like a smart idea, I think he's also very into the game, and he just overall does have very strong account with lots of empowerment and gear and like good builds. So it's basically the entire package. I think many of the people that are most competitive in Raid about PvP, they are more into classic arena than live arena. So you're not seeing some of those top accounts in the game even competing in it. And even if they are, they might be actually much lower rated than you, because they don't actively do it. So that's why it's a little bit different bracket, that some people are into live arena and some are into classic arena.
Yeah.
And maybe it's possible if you have really good account. Maybe there's not like overall. I think overall live arena is probably more active and more competitive. But at the top end, I think most of the top end classic arena players, they don't even do live arena.
That's crazy, man. I love Live Arena, but I know that I'm in the minority there, so I don't know. But anyway, let's get into the strategy right now. I know that you did. I want to give a big shout out. You did a video all about resist. I want to talk a little bit about building a high resist team and building a high resist champion before we jump into the individual cases. You did it. Who was it with? I'm sorry.
It was with Final Kenpachi. Shout out to him. He's like a free-to-play content creator, been playing the game for a long time, and he mostly does Twitch streams, but he does do videos as well.
Okay, I really enjoyed that video. I'll link it for you guys. I'll link his channel as well. But you talked for like 45 minutes about a lot of stuff, but about resist. Like, is it viable to build a high resist team, especially with Armanz right now? I want to ask, what is your synopsis there? Is it viable to build a high resist team? And if not, then how much should I be building resist on my Siphis, my Duchesses, my main supports, you know?
Yeah, well, it's very situational. I don't think nobody's building full teams on high resist. You certainly can build some specific champions, where most often it's like revivers in resistance. Some people do that, but it's not like meta. It's you're gonna see much more characters built on accuracy than you're going to see in resistance. Kind of, if I quickly mention what we talked about in the video, but resistance and accuracy, maybe you can show the calculation charts in your video. I can link it to you afterwards.
Yep.
But basically, accuracy has 42 advantages in the calculations in the game. So if you have 100 accuracy and enemy has 100 resistance, then you're basically almost always going to land your debuff. And if they have 142 resistance and you have 100 accuracy, it's 50-50 chance to land your buffs. So
does that scale exponentially as well? Is it like
it's just always flat 42 defense.
Okay.
Basically 42 more resistance and it's 50-50. So you need to have at least that much more resistance, and really you need to have more than that, because champions do often gain more accuracy from masteries, because you basically get 36 more accuracy from masteries than you get resistance. So some champions do have high base resistance, like Dars and so on. It's a little bit complicated, but let's say you basically want to have something like pretty much close to 100 more resistance than enemy has accuracy to reliably resist the enemy, or let's say 80. So if enemy has 800 accuracy on their debuffer, then you would want to have closer to 900 resistance to actually beat it.
So if you want to build a high resist team, you need to be thinking about building a Siphi, a Duchess, whoever your reviver is or whatever. In like, if you're end game, you need to be shooting for 900 resist. You know, is that like to be able to resist the lockouts, basically?
Yeah, to be honest, often even more than that. Like, if we talk about you need to, of course, adjust this onto your level of account and what rating you are and who you compete with. But the top accounts are going to pull off like 1.1k resistance, even if they want to. But it's going to be more like 1,000 plus resistance at this point. And
so for 900. Progression players, though, it might be different. You might be able to, if you're just trying to farm your Great Hall, you might be able to actually explore a viable high resistance strategy with 500 resist or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and there's different situations that maybe you don't always need to, like, you might get locked out. Maybe you can't resist that, but maybe you want to build a little bit resistance to, I don't know, resist the enemy taunt from Harima, or maybe debuffs from
a Torment or something, like, who's, you know, like there's a lot of high resist or high accuracy champions that, like, even as some Wukong, people can kind of thread the needle between damage, speed, and accuracy, so you might be able to get by with a little bit lower.
Exactly, and maybe the enemy has like a support that does have a little bit accuracy and debuffs, let's say something like our base, but they are not going to have like full investment on accuracy, and they're going to be more tanky or fast. So if you have, let's say, like 500 to 600 resistance, that can often be relevant, though it's usually not going to be enough against the local champions.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about builds right now. It seems to me, from my limited experience in my little corner of the game, that Stoneskin is getting even more popular, you know, than it's ever been inside the entire game. So I guess I want to start by saying, A, do you agree with that? And B, what champions do you default to Stoneskin being the best build?
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, just to quickly pivot back to the last point, there's another that's kind of recent change between accuracy and resistance. And that's kind of very champion-specific thing. But many of the popular, or many of the best primal champions that we have right now, they actually do have accuracy buff on their kits. And I'm talking about like Star Sage Galatir, Lady Mikage, and Arbase. Those are some of the best primals and most popular ones, especially in live arena. And they do have the accuracy buff, so it makes that even harder. And many of the primal champions that have debuffs, they book ignore resistance on their booking. So it makes it even harder than it used to be.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. Yeah, Stoneskin, very, very popular right now. Who aren't you trying to build in Stoneskin? Is that a better way to say it?
Where the eagles cry.
Stoneskin is definitely popular. It's the best, I would say, best and most commonly used set for arena, both in live arena and classic arena, because the obvious buff that you get from it, not only does it protect you from damage, but also from debuffs. And it even has kind of like inbuilt resistance, basically, that you have 50% chance to buff strip it, and it's not 100%. But especially now when maybe you can show White King Narses, his A2, but with his release just recently, he does get extra hit on his A2 if enemy has shield or strengthen, and also ignores both of them. And that's kind of deterring people from using bolster set or shield set. Those two kind of used to compete a little bit with Stoneskin, that you kind of wanted to have a little bit of both of them and not invest fully into either one because they had different counters. But right now we actually see many people avoiding using bolster at all. And you're going to see most champions in the high-end teams with Stoneskin. Even in my live arena pushes right now, it's sometimes comical that I have every single champion in my team in Stoneskin. But yeah, it's super dominant. It might need some counters. And actually, before the video, we were talking a little bit about how Plarium is trying to make good changes to the game. And sometimes players, and even as content creators, we might give them a little bit hard time and not fully acknowledge that they are trying to make the game better. Plarium actually has worked on this issue recently, that Stoneskin might be too strong. And they did do the change to the blessings recently, and they buffed the one that does damage with poisons. That blessing was made better, more viable for PvP.
Yeah.
And we do have the one for burns as well. And also we just recently got a new primal champion. If you go to the Oakrin faction and you check out the primal one, I don't know if you made any videos about Gizmak.
I have them all right. Gizmak?
Yeah, Gizmak.
Yeah.
Gizmak is one of those champions. I don't know if you...
If not for Polymorph, he'd be amazing, you know?
The guy in the band that's always complaining.
No, he's actually incredibly popular right now in live arena. He's one of the top picks, and the reason, of course, is that he does have those burns. He does counter Stoneskin teams, and sometimes I have to go for a ban on him, even though I really wouldn't want to ban him and get something else. But if I have 3 out of 4 champions in my team in Stoneskin, Gizmak is totally gonna destroy me. But yeah, Stoneskin is very strong, but they have kind of tried to balance it a little bit just very recently, actually.
Okay, and you're talking about the lethal dose.
Lethal dose
blessing. Let's talk about blessings for a moment here. Let's talk. So basically, Stoneskin's strong. Stoneskin's the way to go on most, at least a 4-piece plus another 4-piece if you're trying to get to end game builds. My question is talk to me about blessings. We all know that in the state of the game right now, if you have a 6-star awakened champion, you're probably going polymorph, right? More often than not in the arena. But talk to me about anything below, because not many people have a lot of 6-star awakened champions. So everything outside of 6-star awakenings, what blessings are popular would you recommend? Let's tackle it from this way, Shini. What blessings do you absolutely want to have on your team if possible, like in a perfect world? On the perfect arena team, do you really want a temporal chains? Do you want an intimidating presence? Talk to me about like, what are your favorite blessings to consider outside of polymorph right now in the meta?
Very much depends on your teams. Like if you don't have a speed team, the temporal chains might not be that important. If you do, you definitely want to have at least one of those on your team. And by the way, just to add to the previous point, it's not just the lethal dose blessing, but we do also have the incinerate blessing that works with burn.
For the burns,
both of those can be good, or especially the burn one can be good against Stoneskin. But I've even seen some people playing up with some weird strategies lately that you can use Kalvalax, who does poisons at the start of the battle, and those are even going to go through Stoneskin and so on. But that's not very relevant to the meta, but they're definitely working on that. But
for sure.
As far as which blessings would be mandatory, let me think about.
Start with we talked about temporal chains. What about nukers? When are you going Ward of the Fallen versus Soul Reap versus, I don't know, Crushing Rend or whatever? Well, what are your considerations on Cruelty, Crushing Rend, Soul Reap, etc.?
Sure. Well, yeah, it's all very situational, but if we tackle those individually, Crushing Rend is very niche, but it's actually used a decent amount. But you get Ignore defense, and there's actually Cruelty Blessing, which is kind of similar and was buffed recently, and it's way better in a long-term battle. You can get up to 40% Ignore defense on enemies if you hit them a couple times. And this works with multi-hits, so champions that do AoEs, and especially AoE multi-hits like the champion that you can get from the missions right now, Marius the Gallant.
Yep.
Yeah, he has AoEs and triple hitters, but you can reduce their defense massively with that blessing. It's kind of underrated. It's a very good one.
Good point.
And it often competes with Crushing Rend, but if you just want to have damage on the first hit of the battle, because over time Cruelty is going to be better, but in those situations Crushing Rend is better, and often people actually use Crushing Rend on White King Narses in classic arena offense, because they basically want to get a kill on first hit, and they don't want to take any risks that they would miss a little bit damage and not finish off the enemy. But it's very niche. It's not really used outside of that. In live arena, I would pretty much always go with Cruelty over Crushing Rend.
Soul Reap.
Soul Reaper is kind of like a filler nuke blessing that is totally viable on everything, but it's not very like game breaking. If you don't have like 6-star blessing, or you don't have any of them that you specifically need on that champion, then it's pretty much going to come down either to Soul Reaper or Lightning Cage. And Soul Reaper is going to add a little bit more damage, and Lightning Cage has a chance to protect your buffs like immunity. And if your immunity gets protected, that of course means that you're not going to get stunned or debuffed by enemy. I personally usually prefer Lightning Cage, but it kind of depends if you actually bring immunity buff or other buffs in your team. But those are usually kind of the like the filler nuke blessing choices.
Let's talk about some specific champions, just the most popular ones, and talk about builds. So Siphi, what is the most popular way to build Siphi the Lost Bride? On my build, for example, I have some decent survivability, nothing crazy, but I went for speed, like obviously we want to have, HP, defense, speed, and resistance. There's quite a few, thresholds that we're trying to meet. So how would you, obviously we only have so much good speed gear on our accounts, right? So whether it's Siphi or anybody else, you have to kind of, fix that or move that between, 8 champions or however many you're running. So what is top priority for your fastest champion on your account? And how do you build like a Siphi, relative to that?
Yeah, actually, I really like your Siphi build. I think it's very good, but there's a little bit difference nowadays on champions like Siphi and something like, let's say, Arbiter or Chu Chen that you would just build on full speed. On Sithis, you usually go for more balanced build, and people have kind of different ratios. That somebody might have a little bit tankier Siphi than you, somebody might even have a faster one, somebody might have a little bit more resistance. But you kind of want to have all of those a little bit, but it is kind of good to have some differences so that it's not completely predictable. So you base somebody and you expect her Siphi to be like 60k HP and 400 speed, and maybe it's a very tanky Siphi, and the team that you pick against it is not gonna gut it, that you don't have enough damage to finish her off.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Refreshing that I have an all right build on Siphi. My question to you is,
it's a very good build.
Well, look at this. I have a 3-star awakened, right? And this could apply not just to Siphi, it could apply to like a Duchess, for example, right? I have polymorph. I only have like 230 accuracy on her though. Would it be better to go with something else over, you know?
It's kind of...
I have polymorph partially.
I was talking
to kind of bait bans too, I should say, right? I want people to think she has higher accuracy than she does, maybe, you know, because I want people to ban Siphi usually over a lockout, just the way that I draft, you know?
It's a little bit divisive because, as the viewers might know, they actually did rework the polymorph.
Yep.
And at one time it didn't require accuracy at all. And even 1-star polymorph was super strong, maybe even too good. But now I would basically say that if you don't have it at 6-star and you don't have accuracy, then I just wouldn't use polymorph.
So would you go like an intimidate presence or lightning cage or something? What would you recommend as your, or is faultless defense any good? Like what would you consider?
Probably either temporal chains or intimidating presence. Those are the typical main options.
Okay, cool. That's great. Okay, let's move it on. So everything that we said about Siphi, would that apply to Duchess and the other popular reviver supports out there, like maybe even a Pythion or whatnot, and Elva, whatever?
Yeah, I would say so. Siphi is especially good because she has very good base stats, and she does have turn meter boost, so you have more kind of different options on going full tank or full speed, or like anything in between. And I would definitely recommend like balanced build, that you don't go full speed, 0 tankiness, or the opposite, but something in between. Maybe with whatever best gear you have, that maybe with your best gear it's like a medium speed and super tanky. Maybe that's the best thing that you can do. And maybe you have the opposite and you might just want to go with that. But something like Pythion, for instance, he doesn't really have like a speed threat with turn meter boost or CC. So you probably do want to go a little bit more tanky on him and not go on those very, very fast builds. Same with the Duchess and so on. Elva is not as tanky. She has a little bit worse base stats, but you probably
play to the base stats. Take them into consideration quite a bit when you're building. Try to play to their advantages.
Yeah, like some champions like Siphi and Duchess, they have good base stats, so you can do anything, especially Siphi. But if the champion has very like squeezy base stats like Elva, then you can't go full tank anyway. So it's gonna be something in between.
Okay, on Duchess, again, this is a little bit of a different build, a lot tankier that I have, but also a lot slower. She is in 6-piece Stoneskin though. What do you feel? How do you feel about this? Like, critique this build. You know, do you like it? Do you not like it? Would you change anything?
Well, on both of these builds, you had very high defense. On the other one, it was pretty good. On this one, you could maybe put a little bit more defense on other stats. I don't know if you have any defense bottom pieces or at least defense accessories. It would be better to have more HP, a little bit less defense. That would make her more tanky.
Okay, that was my next question. So when we're talking about defense versus HP, you're gravitating towards HP, I assume, because of all the ignore defenses everywhere?
Yeah, we talked about it on the last video as well, but basically there's a lot of ignore defense, not just from champion skills, but with masteries and item sets. Pretty much every nuker in the game is at least gonna have 50% ignore defense, so that's gonna mitigate the effectiveness of it a lot, while HP is always gonna be the same. Of course, it kind of works in tandem with defense, but if your defense is almost fully getting ignored, then you just rely on the HP. But also, not just the fact that people do ignore the defense, but the way defense scales in Raid, it kind of has diminishing returns. Maybe we can also pull up some charts about that as well. But basically, the common knowledge is that the soft cap for defense is 4.2k, and after that it gets like more
less dividends, less return on your investment.
Yeah, you get less bang for your buck.
So you're trying to hit 4,200 then on all your champions, and then after that you might want to consider investing a bit more in HP because you're getting diminished returns.
Yeah, on your like tanky champions. So of course, people are gonna ignore your defense anyway. So it's not gonna be exactly like in PvE. PvE, you will always want to go for the soft cap. But if we look at the really good builds where they have really good gear, usually it's gonna be somewhere between, let's say, 4.5k and 5.5k defense on tanky champions like Siphi and Duchess.
Okay, let's talk about Armanz for a moment. A, do you think he needs a nerf?
Oh no, here we go again.
Have to ask. And B, what is the best build? C, what's the best counter? 3 questions.
Okay, that's very interesting. Starting off with the counter, I was actually talking about this recently on a video. I don't think there really is like strong counters to Armanz. Now, he's not Void Affinity, so he can weak it, but the thing is that he does do the turn meter steal before that, so that doesn't even fully counter him, but he could weak it. You could use Force Affinity champions. Apart from that, it's pretty much you need to go first or need to be able to survive it. Maybe if you have Stoneskin, then he's not able to steal your turn meter, but he does have the polymorph as well and buff strip. So there's really not too much ways right now to counter Armanz. But considering that Plarium has been working on a lot of the game balance issues recently, who knows, maybe they have that on their mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, whether you agree or disagree, I wouldn't be shocked if they do something about, because I've never seen rates as high, even for the previously most popular champions out there, I haven't seen the numbers as crazy as they are for Armanz. But okay, talking about building him, any common mistakes? Do you think that, I have him in triple perception, I've seen him in Stoneskin, I guess, going back to the speed conversation, right? Everybody wants Armanz to go first, if possible, or go as soon as possible. Should you put all the best gear on your account on Armanz? Or how important is his speed?
Well, I would definitely put your best gear or some of your best gear. It kind of depends on your champions and items. That if you're very fast and maybe you have Shu Chen, you might want to put Shu Chen on your fastest build. But some people will put Armanz. It kind of depends.
My Armanz build isn't that great. Go ahead, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, it comes down to gear. If you can't make like me, for instance, I can't make like 400 speed Armanz. I do have him in 4-piece Stoneskin. I think he's like 363 speed, maybe, in 4-piece Stoneskin. If I make him in speed set and perception, I could maybe get like 5 more speed. So I'd rather go with a little bit less speed, and then he's immune to the enemy CC and so on.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you answered all 3 questions. So build him basically the way that, not necessarily the way that I have him built here. I would love him to be faster, but like we said earlier, like there's only so many champions that you can build with your best speed gear, right? Because you're so limited, So I have all my best speed gear on my entire account on my lockout champion, right? So on Crixia, but then I don't even have Arbiter or Shuzen built. I have them built, but not in like really fast gear because I had to use it all. Like I only have so much good speed gear to go around. What do you think? Do you think I made the right decision? Do you think I'm putting all my best speed gear on my lockout and going all in? Do you think that's the wise decision, or do you think I should spread it out a little bit more?
I think on this issue there's no like clear black and white decision. It kind of depends on your strategies and builds. You could certainly make whichever one the fastest on your account. By the way, I don't think I answered your third question. Should he be nerfed or not? I actually clickbaited a little bit on one of my recent videos that I put something like Armanz nerf question mark, something like that.
How dare you?
And the comments were very divided, that some people want him to get nerfed, some people don't. I actually think, in my comments at least, most people actually didn't want him to get nerfed and were kind of defending him and were a little bit mad that I put that in the title.
They even broke the top. Yeah, that you broached the topic.
But actually on the video, what I actually said, I kind of misled and clickbaited a little bit on the title. But I'm kind of neutral on Armanz, and I actually went more detail about that on video. I think I understand both sides. I think he's very good champion. There's many other super good champions, but he's one of them. He's definitely well above average champion. So
well,
it's
for
kind
sure.
of hard to say.
Yeah.
I use him a lot myself and I enjoy it, but at the same time, when enemy team uses him, I pretty much must ban him or I get destroyed.
Yeah. I pretty much do the same. I pretty much auto ban, and that's the way that I take care of them. Obviously, that doesn't help in Classic Arena, but still. So okay, let's talk about UDK, man. Is UDK, has he fallen off a little bit? With Armanz and whatnot, and B, is the most popular build for UDK still super slow Stoneskin?
Yeah, I don't know if I saw this discussion on Reddit yesterday or something like that, but there's definitely a little bit more variety right now than just UDK. But I wouldn't say that he's fallen off. He's very good champion. He used to be in every single Classic Arena defense team in top 20.
Yeah.
Right now, he's in a little bit less, but he's still in most teams. And in Live Arena as well, I mean, he's insane counter in right situations, like against Rotos, for instance. But even outside of totally hard countering the enemy nukers, he can still be very, very useful in many situations. Like, you can protect your nukers from the Siphi A1 sleep, or maybe you have Stoneskin UDK on your team and a Wukong, and the UDK with Stoneskin and slow speed is just going to stay alive forever and make sure that your Wukong gets back up.
So it's still the way to go. Super slow speed, 6-piece Stoneskin or better, and chill. And that's it. Okay. What about Sun? You mentioned Sun Wukong. Obviously, he's a champion that almost everybody has. Apologies to the new players watching right now.
It's not funny.
Sun Wukong. This is a very difficult champion to build, even though he's everywhere, because it's tough to have it all, right? Like, to have that accuracy sky high, to have him either fast or not fast. And then, what are the different ways to build Sun Wukong, and which is your personal favorite? What do you think of my build? I have him in a kind of a nuker build. He's not my best gear, but at the same time, he's tough to build, like he's a tough guy to build.
Yeah, well, I feel like on Siphi, it seemed like you had your best gear on him. I think you might be able to do better build on Wukong. He has surprisingly...
Why don't you use Sun Wukong in the arena? Even though I should, I just don't. Like, you know how it is. You only get to make decisions in this game. I never draft Sun Wukong. I don't use him. Not to say that I couldn't and I shouldn't. Maybe I should. But, like I said, I already have so many fast champions like Lady Mikage I use a lot, and yada, yada, yada.
Are you done?
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that a lot of your gear is like unascended. So it could be a lot better if you fine-tune it. So it might still be a pretty strong build, actually. It's kind of hard to tell, though the crit damage seems very low.
Weak.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have crit damage gloves on him?
I do, but he's not in, like I said, he's not in like great. He has 5-star, on there. It's not ascended. But okay, so Sun Wukong, is it more popular right now to build him as a nuker or a fast controller or a blend?
Actually, I think it has kind of switched up a few times, but I think people are mostly using the nuke build or the hybrid build right now. I'm seeing less and less of the support Wukong with full accuracy and full speed, and that might be because there's a lot of competition. That something like Lady Mikage and Armanz are kind of similar, and both of them are very popular. So I also do actually, Wukong is very often picked with Lady Mikage. It's a very popular combination, but it's usually like a nuke build, and Armanz does have the extra synergy with your teammates also casting polymorph. So the support build also could be good with Armanz. So it actually does synergize with both of these.
Okay. You mentioned Lady Mikage. I don't want to talk about too heavily on the mythicals because they're hard to get, but a lot of people do have her or are on their way to getting her because she's a fusion. So Lady Mikage, I think that, I don't know if you have the same experience, Shini, but like every week or month that goes by, I like her even more. Like I have so much respect, and she's one of my favorite champions in the game now. Is the most popular build on her just basically all out speed?
Yeah, I think it's like full speed. She actually does have the thing that I talked about earlier, that she does book a little bit, ignore accuracy, and doesn't she have accuracy buff as well? So she
yes.
So
actually,
in the second form. Yeah.
Thanks. She does so much that I often forget. There, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't usually cast this accuracy buff at the start of the fight. Usually you open either with the ally attack or the AoE stun, and maybe after that you're going to do the buff strip. But she does ignore a little bit resistance with the books, and she also does have accuracy buff. So you don't have to go like super hard, like 800 accuracy on her.
Yeah.
Usually people just mostly focus on speed and maybe even go for a little bit tankiness in live arena.
Yeah.
You do have the additional benefit on primal champions that even if you lock them out, they can still switch their second form and not be locked out. So against those type of situations, sometimes it might be good to have her a little bit tanky so that you can still go second and like get a turn and win the fight.
Yeah, I have right now. Oh man, I don't know if you have to do this ever, but I'm so lucky to have two, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. But I have both of them in kind of a hybrid or blended builds right now because I was doing them on 2 Hydra teams. Long story short, this is not the exact arena build that I run. I don't usually run with damage in arena, but let's end by talking about damage before I let you go here. Nukers. I want to start by asking, I guess, a pretty just broad question about nukers in general. Is the meta right now such that nukers are like, what is the minimum speed you're comfortable running a nuker? I know everything's going to be a little bit different, but, you know, provided you don't have a Shuzen or like a very niche team, you know, a regular team, how fast do you want your nuker? Because obviously it's always that trade-off of attack percentage or defense percentage or whatever on the boots versus going all-out speed.
Well, in Classic Arena, it's a bit different because you know the enemy team, and for instance, if you're using Armanz and they don't have one, or you know that you're faster, then you can go with a very slow nuker. So, and people often run those in Classic Arena. But in Live Arena, most nukers are pretty fast. I mean, they might be super fast or medium fast, and in the high level, if we talk about like Gold 4, it's often going to be like well above 200 speed. 200 speed is kind of slow in the current meta. You will often see basic nukers, like let's say Harima, they're going to be even like 250 plus speed.
Okay, so building pretty fast. And even in the mid game, obviously, again, I recognize that a lot of you guys are like, wow, I can't even hit those speeds. But I guess it's all relative, right? You just want to... You used to be able to get by in the mid game with 180 speed nuker. Now it's probably going to be 210 or whatever. It's going to scale, you know, appropriately to wherever you are, right?
Yeah, to be clear, I'm talking about like Gold for the top super accounts. So this is of course scaling to your level, but
of course,
often like my nukers, I think they're mostly between like, I think most of my nukers are somewhere between 240 speed, around that mark. I think my fastest nuker is 283, which is my Helicat. And surprisingly often, like my 240 speed nukers, they do get outsped. So many people do run even faster ones.
Okay. I want to ask about, I was trying an unorthodox strategy. Have you ever tried, and what do you think of running a super fast nuker? I tried this on a Nithwi. Like, I think this is best, like in my mind at least, with a block revive champion. That way you can sneak in there if there's even, all it takes is one champion without Stoneskin, right? And then you pop them off and it's 4v3 the rest of the battle. So my question to you is do you think this is a viable strategy? Or, you know, it doesn't even have to be a fast nuker, but is there anything outside the box that people can do to try to surprise their opponents right now that you'd recommend? I have a Nithwi at, I don't know, not super fast, but fast enough, 343, you know?
Yeah, I think the idea is good, but usually you would have like full damage hard-hitting nuke build with like medium speed, and then you're gonna have like very fast support with turn meter boost and have them speed tuned. But if we're talking about Initve specifically, there's actually a couple different niche strategies that you can do with him. The most basic one is that you have Shu Chen as your fastest champion.
Yeah.
And then you have a very hard-hitting Initve, and it can even be a little bit slow. That does work well. And of course, you can build Initve in Stoneskin. I do see people often building him in a Stoneskin, especially 4-piece Stoneskin now with the accessories, which is a little bit hard to do. But if you can get him in either Savage or Savage or Lethal and Stoneskin, then you could still go second and survive. And if you have super good gear, then you could still run him with Chu-Chen and also have the Stoneskin just for good measure if enemy has like Tormin or some kind of CC.
Do you think there's any champions right now? Final question for you, Shini. Do you think there's any questions in the game right now, or any champions in the game that are being underutilized in your estimation? Like champions who basically outside the top 8 or 10 that everybody seems to be using in the high-end meta, are there any that you're like, wow, this champion could be, you know, easily, it doesn't have to be an obscure champion, but I don't know, you know, could be like a Mortu Macabre or Mithrala or whatever, I mean, whatever, you know, like.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. I'm starting to think, I don't have like super obvious perfect answer, but it's very interesting question. I feel like the meta is kind of
no one really uses Necret that much in the end game anymore. If, for example, you know.
Yeah, I think Necret specifically, for instance, is a little bit out of the season. For like example, the Narcissus is gonna like do the double damage and ignore his shields. And there's also many other popular champions like Lazarus, who does ignore his shields. So he's a little bit off meta.
Oh, Lazarus, sorry.
Yeah, Lazarus. How do you say it?
I just say Lazarus like an American, but yeah, okay. I think yours sounded better.
Lazarus. Yeah,
Lazarus. Got you. Yeah. So anybody else that comes to mind in terms of and by the way, I think Necret's amazing. Before anybody's like, what are you talking about? I'm just saying that like in the zeitgeist of right now meta, is there anybody else, even an epic? I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But anybody that you think, hey, that's a really good champion that people don't use that much, you know?
Yeah, I think actually I was just talking about that in other video about the old epics that were very relevant in the meta. Right now, I don't think any epics really can make it the cut because the champions are very strong and we got primals and everything.
Empowerment, mythicals, yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, that was also one of those things that they just announced today, that in their roadmap, they are making it so that we're able to empower epics in future. That's super.
At the time of this recording, I have not heard that yet. That's amazing.
Okay, but they announced that like that's not like we can talk about it. It wasn't in like embargo or anything.
Okay, great, awesome.
But I would say on hindsight, I wish they did that when they released the empowerment. Maybe it would have been almost too good.
Yeah.
Because people had less empowered champions back then. But if they did that, then many epics back then would have been very good, because many epics like even on your screen, like Magnar, Madame Ceres, Bogot, there was many epics that were top tier in arena meta.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
Even Rector, I used to use Rector a lot, but nowadays, even with empowerment, I don't really see epics getting a comeback unless you really need like a reviver. You could use Rector.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe I would say UDK. I think many people kind of do. I think most people know that UDK is very good, but UDK is a very simple champion. He has a very basic like kit that he deflects the one attack, and that's pretty much all he does. I mean, he does have some heals, fear, and taunt and shields. It's actually quite a lot on his other skills. But just the mere fact that you can deflect single target attacks, it is very strong, and sometimes it can completely counter the enemy team, like if they're using single target Nuker, or if they really need that Siphi A1 sleep and so on.
For sure. Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the epics. And hey, Shini, just want to thank you again for coming on. It was a great chat, and learned a lot as always. And perfect time for you guys to go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. I'll have it linked in the show notes below. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It was interesting to talk about with somebody else from a slightly different perspective and kind of change notes and feelings about the PvP meta.
For sure, man. Let's do it again soon. Thank you again. And as always, take care, guys.